Is Andy Staples with us, Fritzy?
Andy's standing by.
All right, Andy. Where do you want to start with all the great news with college athletics today?
Oh, I don't know. We could go Rutgers. We could talk about the Pac-12 officiating. You name it.
What do we not know about what's going on at Rutgers?
I don't know. There seemed to be contradictory statements yesterday about whether the president had seen the tape in November, and then it seems like Tim Pernetti, the AD, is falling on his sword now and saying that the president didn't see it and he saw it, and the president didn't see it till this past week. So, I think they've got that buttoned up as much as they're going to have that buttoned up, but they've got bigger issues because, you've got a staff editorial in the New York Times this morning saying they got to get rid of the president and the AD, and that's the sort of thing that when the conversation jumps from Sports Illustrated to the Today Show and to the editorial page of the New York Times, you got really big problems.
Well, that's how we came to this conclusion that Mike Rice was going to be fired, because Rutgers was handling it internally. And look, if they stood up for their decision with Mike Rice and said, he made mistakes, we disciplined him, we feel very comfortable, confident as we move forward, he has rehabilitated himself. Okay, but you saw them cave in like a house of cards because the governor came down on him. We saw the video, and we went, how do you keep him employed? So they stood up for him, and then they crumbled, and now it's going to cost all of them their jobs.
Yeah, and it was just a series of really dumb decisions. And that's one of those things that it's something going forward. You got to realize you make your decisions as if the truth, the whole truth, is going to come out eventually, because it always does, and you're going to look a lot worse if it looks like you made it assuming that people wouldn't see the evidence. And that's what it looks like. They made a decision assuming no one would ever see this tape. And then once everybody saw it, it's like, oh, yeah, that was not the way to go.
And and then you have an athletic director, and I don't know him. I told Fritzy to have him on because there's only one question. How do you call that a first offense when that's an accumulation?
Well, there's about 12 offenses on the tape.
Yeah, which one was the first offense? And then you gave him the opportunities after that. Is Eric Murdoch, who handed this tape to the mothership, is he a hero or a villain?
Neither. He's a guy who's trying to do the best thing for himself as well, but he did take the concerns to the AD. He had gotten fired. They say it's because he spoke at a camp he wasn't supposed to speak at. Fine. But he still brought a legitimate concern to the AD, and they slapped the coach on the wrist. So, yeah, good for him for getting it out there. And it just shows how dumb the decision was. I mean, this really was an easy decision to make if you're the AD. When Eric Murdoch comes to you with that tape, you say, all right, how do we settle this financially with you so you don't release that tape? And then you fire the basketball coach, and he says, I'm going to sue you for unlawful termination. You say, well, we have this videotape, and if you sue us, we're going to release it, and no one will ever hire you again. So there you go.
He's Andy Staples from Sports Illustrated, joining us at the Dan Patrick Show. As far as the wish list, I mentioned that Danny Hurley would probably be at the top of the list for me. As you're going into the Big Ten, you need the coach. Let's put Mike Rice in the rearview mirror. What about Ben Howland? Would Ben Howland be interested in something like this?
I don't know if he'd be interested. I think he can probably do better than that. I think Danny Hurley's the way to go if he wants the job. I mean, he's a Jersey guy, and that's the thing. Rutgers has been historically bad, but it's a program that can be good under the right circumstances because there's so much talent nearby. You've got great basketball players within 50 miles of your campus. You just got to be able to convince them to play there. And Hurley is a guy who can do that.
All right, Pac-12. I mentioned that story's still fluid, in my opinion. That they have to be thrilled this Mike Rice video came out.
Oh yeah, they got really lucky because look, at the end of the day, they're still going to have a basketball season next year, and Arizona's still going to be in the Pac-12. And if Ed Rush is still the head of officiating in the Pac-12, if I'm Sean Miller at Arizona, if I'm Greg Byrne, the AD, I got some serious questions for Larry Scott because it sure sounds like the head of officiating in the Pac-12 doesn't like my basketball coach.
Well, you can't have Michael Irving, who was the official who teed him up, do one of those games, and apparently he did all three UCLA-Arizona games.
Yeah, and this is the big problem with this because even if Ed Rush and Irving are completely above board, completely on the up and up. It was a complete joke, not really that big of a deal.
It's perception.
Perception is reality, especially when it comes to officiating. You cannot run a sports league if the public, your customers, think that the games are rigged.
Better coaching move, USC or UCLA?
In terms of hoops, I like the USC hire. I think hiring Andy Enfield is a great idea, and the reason you can do that, where you can hire Andy Enfield, who was a relative unknown a couple weeks ago, is because it's USC basketball. You can't screw up the USC football hire, but you can take some risks in the USC basketball hire, and this is one of those hires that has a high ceiling and a low floor. You know, it can either turn out great or turn out really badly. I'm of the opinion that Enfield is going to do fine. I mean, the guy's been an assistant with the Boston Celtics. He was an assistant at Florida State for 5 years, so he knows this level of play. And he plays a fun style, which recruits are going to love, and it's going to help get you coverage. Because, I mean, the thing is, in L.A., even if you're really good, you are fighting for media coverage and for attention with the Lakers and the Dodgers and everything else that they have out there. So it's a tough job. For UCLA, there's a lot more pressure. You have to hire somebody with a name. But the problem is they hired a guy who seems just like Ben Howland when he was coming from Pitt, except Ben Howland had been a lot more successful when he was coming from Pitt.
I'm still holding out this. I want to produce this. I need Mark Burnett to help me. The Real Housewives of USC.
Oh, man.
I mean, come on. That's gold.
As a former classmate of Layla Kiffins, we didn't know each other. She probably would have never spoken to me. But, yeah, I'm all on board with that.
Okay, but did you think you had a chance with Lane Kiffin's wife before she was Lane Kiffin?
I never would have. We never met on the University of Florida campus. We didn't know each other. I actually wound up dealing a lot with her dad professionally. But, no, I would have never had a chance. None.
The Auburn story, I don't know if anybody's surprised at this, but now with guys with an axe to grind, that's when these stories surface. Because if everybody's getting paid, everybody's winning, boosters happy, coach happy, players happy, you never hear this. Now all of a sudden, disgruntled former employees, football players, and we got ourselves a story. How much validity do you place on this?
I don't know. I want to see what happens in court. You know, I know Mike McNeil's got some court dates coming up, and his trial is coming up. I want to see what everybody says under oath. This is one of those deals that's weird because, you know, Selena says she talked to these guys and quotes them, and now they say that they weren't quoted accurately, and that tends to happen after you say something inflammatory. But I just want to see what people now say under oath because it's just one of those weird stories where you've got a guy who's about to go on trial for something very serious, and you know he's trying his darndest to make sure he's not going to jail, and you've got these other guys who are sort of in the picture but not really. So I want to see what people say in court under oath.
Good to visit with you, Andy. Know you got a busy day. Thanks for joining us.
All right, thanks, Dan.
Andy Staples, Sports Illustrated.